right? This guy named MT, he invited us on his show. And one of the guys brought up something very, very disturbing for me that I just want to kind of talk about. So he had said that, you know, all of the topics that we were talking about were geared towards like Black women. You know, why aren't Black women submissive? Why do Black women choose swag over substance? And the point was brought up that Black women are the highest women to be unmarried.
So baby, when you ready, hit my line. Tell me what you wanna do. I know you still feeling new.
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
How are you guys feeling? I got all my girls with me.
Hey.
I got
that song?
That's what I need to have right there.
Go pour you a glass of wine, girl. Something.
I feel that.
Girl chat, you guys. All right, so we gotta introduce ourselves. Okay. So Nicole, why don't you go first? Introduce yourself. Tell everybody where you're from, what you do.
Sure. Okay. So I'm Nicole. I am a marketing director for a company here in Georgia, and I'm the CEO of Unwind, which is a boutique wine collection coming out this year.
Yes, Nicole has a wine collection coming out. I'm so excited for you. I cannot wait.
Me too.
You want to go next, Danny?
Okay, so I'm Danielle, and I live in Atlanta, and I'm an entrepreneur as well, and I'm working on a couple of things, so we'll talk about that as they come out. I like to share once it's revealed time.
Ooh,
yes,
mystery.
Love it.
All right, I'm Janae Amore. I have a brand called Amore Awareness. I like to spread awareness and love and positivity, but I'm pretty, blunt and forward. I'm pretty cut with it, but I like spread awareness and love, and that's really what I'm about. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So I'm glad you guys decided to do Girl Chat with me. Thank you so much. How are you guys feeling on this Saturday? Like, it was crazy here in Atlanta last night. Like, Nick, you and I live in the same building, but you say you didn't hear anything.
I was out. So yeah, I know. My best friend is getting married, so that's why I had good reason to be out. But I saw actually outside of the window about like 9 police cars as they were headed downtown to the Civic Center. And that was before I knew where the riots were. And I was getting so many phone calls from family, like, where are you? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm home. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just, to be honest, it's emotional. It's a lot that I'm dealing with right now. It's just, you don't know whether to be mad, to be sad, to want to throw something or give someone a hug. Like, the emotions are just all over the place right now.
I know, man. It's so freaking sad. Like, I don't necessarily agree with the looting and stuff like that. Like, I believe in peaceful protests, just like our mayor said last night. I see you shaking your head.
I'm like shaking my head. Y'all are all like this, and I'm like, no. My white side is like, fuck that shit. Fuck that. My white side is like, fuck that peaceful shit. Yeah, for real.
Okay, why do you think the looting will better the situation?
Oh, I don't think we should loot businesses, but I do think that we should burn down establishments. White people, when they march, like just for quarantine, they marched to the White House just because they couldn't get haircuts and go shopping with guns. They went with guns to the White House. They had his knee on a Black man's throat and killed him. And we actually have the whole footage. Like, we are seeing it, like first it was like hearing it. Now we're like seeing it from beginning to end. I mean, this shit is crazy. So I feel like I just know that, you only, like, the only way to win a war is to battle. You have to instill fear in the other person. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how wars are won.
Do you think that, like, establishments, though, like, because this is I feel like the situation is a social situation, and burning down businesses, especially because some of these businesses are Black-owned businesses, unbeknownst to the protesters. So is that really helping us, or is it?
I mean establishments like the police department, and yeah, I mean those kind of establishments, like government establishments. Like, we should burn those down. And I mean, I understand what comes with it, but I just think we should burn them down.
I mean, but that doesn't help anything, because if you think about historically speaking, especially if you look at the way our ancestors protested in the civil rights movement, whenever they were, they were attacked with water hoses and dogs and all types of things, but yet they did not fight back. So in the end, when we look at history, they still won the battle. The best way to get to people is financially. It's to hit them in the pocket. That's the best way to get to anyone. Yeah. And going to burn down buildings, whether it's government or not, whether it's property, we're destroying other people's jobs that didn't have anything to do with it. And we're already in a recession, whether people know it or not, with over 40 million people unemployed. Yes. So we have to be very mindful of that. You have to be strategic. And we all know, yes, wars are definitely won with, it's not fear, but it's being strategic. That's how you win wars. It's the art of war. That's a great book to read. And I just said, Black people, of course, we all need unity. It's not even just Black people. We all need unity.
Let me ask y'all this. So in Minnesota or Minneapolis, right? They did do the looting, and they did all the activity. Do you guys think that that had something to do with the officer actually being charged? Because he was arrested, but they didn't charge him until after the looting and all that stuff. Do y'all think that that had a connection?
I don't know if the looting had a connection to it. I think just the mass media attention that this started to receive was going to force the hand, because more and more people were hearing about it, more and more people were bringing attention to it. So I can't say that there's a correlation between the riots and him actually being charged. And I say that also because there's riots happening now and he's been charged.
Right.
So the issue is deeper for us. And I think that, again, this isn't the first and unfortunately that the last Black man that we're going to see be brutalized publicly. Like, it was a public execution, essentially, right?
Yeah.
I just don't think, though, that the fact that he got charged was because of the looting. I think it's because of all of the media attention that's being received to this whole situation. And I do think let's not take this back. Trayvon Martin, the same thing, the media attention with the police officer.
Yeah, the killer's still alive. Like, the guy's still walking around, like, free.
And that's the problem, is they need to, the problem is that, when I say instill fear, white people don't have fear with us. They've instilled fear in Black people. White people have instilled fear in Black people, and I mean, since it's been so long, so like Black people don't even kill like Zimmerman. Why is Zimmerman still alive? Like, somebody should have killed him by now. Like, somebody should have took him out. Like, these people should not still be living, and that's why I feel like they instill fear in us by constantly killing Black people for no damn reason. And so Black people are afraid. And I feel like they've instilled fear in us, and, we need to instill that shit back. And,
the problem is they're protected, right? So if you look at them, they can kill with no repercussions, right? So we do that, and we're treated the complete opposite. I mean, there were even situations where there was a Black cop that killed a white person, and where's that cop now? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't get the same preferential treatment that this man is getting. So it's easy for us to just get upset and say violence is the answer and that we need to go and attack. But my fear is that we do that. The system's not set up to help us in those situations. Those people that were protesting, they're in jail right now. You know what I mean? And who's going to bail them out? A lot of them don't have the economic means for someone to help them. They're going to dig into their past. Oh, this person, whatever. Maybe they had some sort of rep and they robbed something in the past. Well, now they're going to do that and the person's going to stay in jail. And they were protesting. So I just feel like the system's not made for us to be violent.
Yeah. But I think, and also too, and another thing, but people are forgetting, it wasn't just the white cop, there's Asian cop as well. So when people start saying stuff about just white people are not the biggest problems. If you ask most other minorities or other races of people, they feel the same way about Black people. So it's not just white people. So, I mean, let's just get that in clear. And then it's not all white people either. So we have to be very clear and concise about what we're talking about. And I'm just a firm believer that, I mean, if you look at Nelson Mandela, what happened with apartheid in Africa, South Africa, he came in and used peace to win that. It wasn't violence and war, and he was very strategic. So again, history teaches us this. It's more about us sticking together in unity, and it's more than just Black people that have to make this change. It's everybody. It's white people. It's Asian people. It's Latino people. It's everybody looking at us like human beings. We're all Americans. We're all people.
number one, we're all people, and that's just what it is. And once we start looking at each other, because we see color, why? Because that was instilled in us from the day we were born.
Yeah.
That's why we see color. So when I hear people say I don't see color, bull crap, like bye. But you know, like, but the point is, like, we are people, and if we start looking at each other like people, like human beings, and start treating each other accordingly, then that's where it starts. But definitely not violence. And looting is not a part of a peaceful protest.
Well, like some of the other large cities are going like ham. Do y'all think like all these major cities are going ham because like they just want all this? They want like better laws set in place for cops. Is that why you think? That's what I think. Because people were like, man, Atlanta didn't have to go so hard. Because I mean,
people were just tired. They were just tired of being treated like crap. I mean, let's call it what it is. We just had the issue in Brunswick, Georgia. That hit super close to home. I mean, that could have been anybody. The dude was just jogging. It could have been my brother. It could have been my dad. You know what I mean? Like, there's just too many situations. I think I don't, to, you know, Danny's point, I don't think it's just about the color of the people, because even with the coronavirus and the Asians were kicking out the Africans and you know, and treating them like shit there too. We just want to be treated like fucking humans.
Right.
It's just that simple. And you compact the fact that we're dealing with that on top of all of this virus stuff, we're pissed. Yeah. People don't know, have all these emotions, don't know how to exert that.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, I believe in the power of prayer. I'm, you know, all we can do is pray at this point, because I'm not going to go out there and riot.
I will. I will.
Yeah. Okay, like, please be careful.
I know. I'm gonna have my milk or whatever I need. I'm gonna do whatever I need.
So, let's get into some girl chat. Let's get into some girl chat. So, Janae and I, we were a part of a discussion with these guys, right? This guy named MT, he invited us on his show, and one of the guys brought up something very, very disturbing for me that I just want to kind of talk about. So he had said that, you know, all of the topics that we were talking about were geared towards like Black women. You know, why aren't Black women submissive? Why do Black women choose swag over substance? And the point was brought up that Black women are the highest women to be unmarried. So, and I know, Danny, you know that stat, because you and I have talked about that. And I was like, well, there's like some gray area between, but you know, you were like, no, that's the numbers. Like, the numbers are the numbers, you know what I'm saying? But I want to tap into why. And I think it's like 70% of Black women aren't like married or something like that. Like,
is it that high?
It's that high, Danny. I think you know the real.
Yeah, it's very, very high. It's very high. And then if you, it's unfortunate, but I think now that Black women date outside their race or are expanding their possible opportunities of mate, that's changing. And a lot of it has to do when it comes to the way, especially I saw the video that you were talking about that you, Janae, y'all did it with MC, and what was the other, Stylo 84? I think that was his name.
Yeah, Solo TV, yeah. Yeah,
Stylo TV, you know, you all did it with him. And a part of that is I watched the video, was skewed with stereotypes, first and foremost. And it's unfortunate, a lot of those stereotypes came from Black men who are supposed to be protectors of Black women, but they aren't. And so, but they like to try to put the responsibility back on Black women as to why Black women aren't married. But I think a lot of times we all both know who pops the question usually, who proposes to who. I mean, you know, it's one of those things where Black women can't be the problem here. We're just not. I think it's the stereotype that society perpetuates, and that's why a lot of Black women aren't married. Well, and then on top of that too, when I hear people say Black women are gold diggers and they just want money, I'm sorry, not to be funny, but when I saw the NFL scout draft day, who was there sitting there with those young boys? A lot of white young girls, and they weren't just there because they're attractive. And honestly, I don't know anyone who wants to be with someone who cannot support them financially, mentally, spiritually, like physically, and the list goes on and on. So that's bull right there within itself. Again, I think it's stereotypes that further perpetuate why Black women aren't married. No one should be made to be put up with bull crap. Either you're going to treat someone accordingly or you're not. And guess what? Now that Black women are starting to date outside their race, those numbers are starting to change.
So let me ask you.
So it can't be Black women that's the problem.
Ask y'all this real quick before we start answering to everybody. So do y'all think that, you know, the Black woman is obviously deemed as the strongest woman? You know, we can hold a lot of on our shoulders, you know what I'm saying? Like, we are often looked at as the aggressive woman, right? The woman who lacks femininity, okay? Do you think there's a little bit of truth to that?
I kind of disagree because I feel like Black women are always seen as sexual objects, even back into slavery time. So I wouldn't say that we're seen as super masculine. I think, you know, in that case, and I think back to like even Michelle Obama when they were calling her a man and stuff like that. I think that was an intimidation factor. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, they over sexualize Black women. I mean, there's so many
like that, yeah.
The big butts, the lips, just our skin, everything about us, it accentuates sexuality and it's heightened because of how we're portrayed to society. So I wouldn't say that we're perceived as masculine. But to Danny's point, I think that there's a lot of, and I don't know the stat off of my head, but there's a lot of successful, when you look at successful Black women versus Black men, there are more successful Black men, or Black women, excuse me. So when we're looking for spouses, we're looking for our equals, we're looking for partners to provide for us, or at least bring to the table what we're bringing. And so if we're finding that the Black men in our society aren't on that same level, right, then a lot of times we're still single or have to maybe, you know, look outside of the race. So,
okay, so this is where the guys kind of say something is like, women working is masculine to them. And so that goes back. And so that goes, it's not that we look masculine, because you're saying, you know, the butts and the this, that's our look, but they're saying that Black women act masculine, you know, have jobs that men have, are very strong personality, you know, are very like, you know, we're not submissive, we don't back down, we will like fight you back, we'll get in your face, you know, like that's what they're saying of like, we're masculine, right? And so that's where, I think Danny said something about the guys saying that we're, well, what did it say earlier? You know, I'm a little lit, so I be forgetting.
That's a good thing.
What do you say?
No, stereotypes like, for example, that we're aggressive, that, you know, Black women want money only.
Oh, want money. Okay, want money, but then they'll sit there and say Black women want money, but then they'll turn around and say, we want a woman that stays at home. Well, like, you got to have money to provide for us. How much money you got for me to quit my job and never work again? And you know what the truth of the matter is?
You know, a lot of these men were like, you know, there's not different levels of submission, because I said there are different levels.
Oh, yeah, there is.
You know what I mean? Like, submission to them, you know, a lot of them were saying in the comments, you know, it's the man goes to work, right? And then the woman stays home. She's a stay-at-home mom or whatever it is. And no,
2020, where is that happening?
Submission to them is us doing whatever they want, whatever they ask.
My man is earning, let's say my man is earning $30,000 a year. For me, I'm not going to want to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom if my man is earning.
You can't.
Right. Not enough money for your family.
No, where are you all going to live?
Right.
I mean, not to be funny.
Yeah.
I need women to understand, if you're going to stay at home, he needs to pay you for that, because you being at home is a full-time job. And so if he wants to have you stay at home and take care of kids and, I don't know, wipe his ass or whatever he wants you to do, or whatever you're agreeing on, I don't know what you're into. Like, you need to have him pay you for that shit. This is a 24/7 job, and you need to have a separate bank account that he pays you, because the truth of the matter is, a lot of these men, they want a puppy, they want a pet, they want somebody who they can tell what to do, that just listens to them and follows them around, and they own you. Because if you don't work, they own you. Because if they go cheat on you, or they fuck you over, they neglect you, they abandon you emotionally, sexually, whatever it is that we all know that men do, which is why women are divorcing men at very high rates, is because they are failing us as partners. Okay, so what they're trying to do is get you to not work so that you're stuck with them, like back in the early 1900s. That's why women were stuck. That's why there wasn't a high divorce rate, because women were stuck. They didn't have resumes. So if he wants you to stay at home for 10 years and then he, I don't know, cheats on you or gets a younger woman or whatever we know men to do, right? Then you need to have a backup plan. You need to have something. You're paying me, and ain't shit coming out this. That's what I'm saying.
I think that's a
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think that's a very unique perspective because so I have a different perspective. I agree with you, and I'm gonna say why. So with me growing up, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So, but that's a whole different era because her and my dad had a conversation when they were dating that she wanted to raise the kids. Now, my mom is also has an entrepreneur spirit, so she's had other businesses. But her and my dad decided at a very, early on in their relationship that that's how they wanted to manage the family. He would be the one to work. She would raise the family, take care of the home. And of course, if when they needed to, because they did fall on hard times, she got a job and she, did what she had to do to support the family. But I say that with an asterisk because they didn't raise me to be that way. They raised me to be an entrepreneur, to be a boss. But they also, the men of today are different than how my parents were back then. So yes, the conversation of submission, what I think men miss today is that submission is a privilege. It's a privilege for us to choose to follow your lead and to say, okay, I trust you, I believe in you, and I'm going to allow myself to take a step back and allow you to take the reins. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to wipe your ass. It does, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still going to be my own strong woman, and you shouldn't be intimidated by my strength. If anything, you should be excited to know that if something happens to you, I'm gonna hold down the fort because we're partners in this. Not if something happens to you, then I'm looking at you like, man, you don't have no legs anymore, you can't work, but what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like if a man is intimidated by a strong woman, then that's his loss. It shouldn't be that. It has to be one or the other.
So is it safe to say that Black women, and I don't know, I don't know how they came up with these stats or how they came up with the studies, but is it safe to say successful Black women, a high percentage of them aren't married because there are Black men out there that just are not measuring up? Is it safe to say that?
Yeah.
And I'll say one of the things too. I read a study that said by the age of 16, women start outnumbering Black women by the age of 16 start outnumbering Black men tremendously. That doesn't happen in the white race until age 32. So if you look at those stats, and if you even think back to when you were in high school, think about all the kids, all the males you started with in class. If you go back from elementary all the way up until you graduate from high school, think about the number of people in your class that were graduating Black males versus graduating Black women. Big difference versus what you started out with. And then take those numbers and think about college. When you got to college, how many Black women were graduating versus Black men? Then when you take those numbers and think about when you got into the workforce, how many Black men were in leadership versus Black women, leadership roles. And so when you start looking at all those numbers, that's when you start, it all makes sense. So that's why if you're a Black woman and you say, hey, I'd like marketing director, that was marketing director here. We both did marketing in high level positions. But if you look at it, how many Black men are in those same equal positions? And if they are in those positions, how many of them are dating Black women? So, if you start looking at those type of stats, then
that's what I want to go into next. It's like, a lot of Black women, reason number two is that a lot of these successful Black men, right, who we want, who we're looking for, go off to marry either a white woman or a racially ambiguous woman. That's what they're doing. Do y'all believe that?
Mm-hmm.
I do. Yeah. I do believe that, but I think sometimes people used to portray that success equals white, and so that if you wanted, once you think about athletes and things like that, they typically, once they made it, when they were grinding the hustles, the Black chick holding it down, but once they made it, they got that contract or whatever. Because of how society portrays success and the picture of success, it usually wasn't with a Black woman on the arm.
Right.
Now, and it sucks because if you think about it, we get excited when we see some of these Black men with Black women. We're like, oh, snap, you wife? That shouldn't be our reaction, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the sad reality.
It is. And
there's
even if you
not
think
enough
about
representation out there, and I know people say, we shouldn't look to celebrities for that. But we do. Let's be real. Some people do. And why shouldn't we? These people are real people. I don't know why people act like celebrities are some supernatural, you know what I mean? Like, celebrities are real people. They just have a super high income.
I'm a snitch. Okay, I'm about to snitch.
Which is
So I went and I hung out with King Bash, right? Y'all know who that is?
no, I don't know who that is.
He's a really big like YouTuber. I think he got big on Vine, and then he got on Instagram, makes funny videos, stuff like that. So he has a lot of followers. So I'm hanging out with King Bash with my friend who is white and Persian. She looks real white. And she's never been with a black guy before. And he's all over her, right? And he was just like asking her, like, have you ever been with a black man? And she was like, no. And he liked her more. Like it like made him feel like she doesn't like black guys, but the fact that she might be interested in me makes me feel validated. You know what I mean? So a lot of these black men, especially like white women who don't really like black guys, because it's like an ego boost for them. It like makes them feel validated about themselves for some reason. And, that was something I saw firsthand, and I thought that was crazy.
They like the exotic look. Like black exotic enough.
But what is exotic? Okay, like that term irritates me.
Well, exotic is anything that's foreign to you because
exactly. Exactly. So like black women are exotic. Black women are exotic because anything that's foreign to you. And so when people say those terms, it's exotic to who? Because black women are exotic. It just depends on who you ask. Just kind of miss the fact that if you look at the standard of beauty that they deem in movies and things like that, the big lips that black women have had, big butts, wide hips, those type of things, and the hourglass figure, that's actually most black women, African women, Jamaicans, and the list goes on and on. But you put those features when the Kardashians, when it paid for it, the Kardashians paid for it, and now all of a sudden it's nice and it's right because it's now on a white woman. And people are like, well, they're not white. They're like, what are they? What are the Kardashians? I'm Armenian. Okay, they're white. Like, if you look at their like, if they find a skull and there's, people get ethnicity and nationality mixed up all the time. They're white. But the fact is that you put this on those that they paid for it and now it's deemed beautiful. Like stuff like that. That's what's annoying to me.
Spanish women, black men will say black women have attitudes, we're not feminine. But then the minute they get into an argument with a Spanish woman and they start yapping or whatever, being aggressive, then that's considered sexy.
Oh, because it's in another language. Right? He's still cussing you out. She's still cussing you out.
Right. She's still cussing you out. She still has an attitude. Okay.
That's why I feel like a lot of it is just validation and ego. Men are all about their egos, and they need their ego boost. They need, they need affirmation. They want all that stuff. So I feel like they just have this thing of like, I'll just go and get that white girl and she'll validate me.
Yeah. But also, I've seen a lot more though, like strong Black love representations, at least on social media. Like I feel like there has been a bigger push to show it and make it more mainstream. Because I do think it happens. Like I really do think there's a lot of very beautiful Black couples out there, and now there's platforms to really showcase it. I mean, from a society standpoint, yes, I still think that there are, there's still an image thing that's happening, but I think more and more we're starting to see a trend where it's like, I love my Black queen and I want to elevate her and promote her. I feel like I'm starting to see a little bit more of that. I don't know if you guys have.
No, I have. You're absolutely right. But and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with interracial dating. Love is love. Like that's hands down. But I think a lot of times when Black men say I prefer white women, or they make those type of statements, a lot of times you have to look at the history of their life. We must admit that most people your personality is based encompassed of your experiences. Yeah. That's what your personality is. You are based on your experiences in life, what you've seen, what you've learned. And we have to look. A lot of times, if we go back and research the way these young Black guys grew up, they probably were picked on in school. They probably weren't, tried to date Black women that didn't deem them attractive. I mean, there were just so many things that probably further perpetuated the reason why they feel the way they do. So a lot of times, if you research these individuals, it's because of a lack of self-esteem or things that happened to them in their childhood or when they were younger. And that's why they probably feel that way, if you just really research it. Because other than that, it's no reason not to like yourself. It's okay to date whomever makes you happy. So that means you can say I've dated Black men, white men, Asian men, doesn't matter. Man is a man. If you're going to be well, then love is love. But don't go out here and just say, oh no, I just don't date Black men. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Especially from a black woman perspective.
Because I mean, I say I don't really date white guys. They're just not my type. You know, like there'd have to be some extra special white guy for me to date them. But they're just not my type. But at the same time, like I'm not white. I like somebody who looks like me. That's my preference, because I just love myself and I want somebody who looks like me. I want somebody, you know. So to me, it doesn't make sense when a dark-skinned and black man says something about dark-skinned women, because the first thing I'm like is, what you got to say about your mom and your sisters? And they don't want to answer that question. They're like, oh no, that's not the same. Yeah, it is. Like you're disrespecting your own family members, you know? And I mean, and frankly, you're disrespecting mine too. You know, my grandmother, you know, my aunts, like it's just rude. So like, why are you saying things like that? You know what I mean? And
let's tap into that a little bit, Janae, because when you and I did our girl chat on the Black as Fuck, remember we were talking about the Black as Fuck TV show and how darker skinned women were up in arms about the title versus the characters in the show. So I know you have had, you know, your encounters with darker skinned black women, right? And so the reason I think that is because society looks at, you know, lighter skinned people as privileged, right? Lighter skin, you know, the lighter your skin is, the more privileged you are. That's what society says. But for you, you know, you're biracial. So you have your black side of your people, they're just like, oh, you're not dark enough. And then, but your white family, they're like, you're black. You know what I'm saying? So
I think the odd thing is I grew up without my family really saying anything about color. They never really said. It's like, it was kind of like, you know, there were jokes about like my mom's milk and my dad's chocolate and I'm chocolate milk, like silly shit like that. I don't know. But like nothing, it wasn't anything that was, I didn't grow up with it so prevalent in my life until I moved to the suburbs, until I moved out of the military base. And that's when the race was prevalent. It wasn't in my family. My family didn't really talk about it too much. So I didn't grow up with them saying like, oh, you know, my white side being like, oh, you're black. You know, they never said, they just didn't make me feel, none of them made me feel like I had to pick. It was society that made me feel like I had to pick.
Yeah, it was more so in school. Yeah.
It was school.
Yeah. So
yeah, wasn't my.
Yeah, and I just want to promote that, you know, because I know you had a tough time with that, and you know, it's not right on either side. Like, you know, everybody knows that, you know, darker skinned women are not looked at as the most beautiful. Like, we're just not. You know, we're last oftentimes. But that doesn't give darker skinned women a right to pick on lighter skinned women. Because I have heard your story, because you know, you and I have talked about your story several times, and I just don't think that it's right that, you know, that should happen.
Yeah, you know, and like, and then of course hearing what that Edward guy come on and say, you know, we're like blatantly, Edward blatantly came on and said, he said Solo came on to troll you, to prove that light-skinned bitches are crazy. And he said, we're gonna troll you because you're so used to being treated, to being put on a pedestal by black. He just said, so we're gonna treat you like shit. And he just said like, oh, you're light-skinned privileged ass. He said, you're light-skinned princess privileged ass. He said, you're so used to black men putting you on a pedestal. And it just kind of triggered me, because it's like, you know, sometimes I get told a lot that like I don't experience colorism and things like that, but it's like, it's even shittier when it comes from people that you feel like are your own people, you know? So it's like, it was just like, damn, why'd you just assume? I mean, I do understand that I am preferred by a lot of black men, but to say that I deserve to be bullied and screamed at and treated aggressively because I'm light skinned is just outlandish.
Yeah. I think oh, go ahead, Dana.
Go ahead, Nikki.
No, I was gonna say, I think that I think the whole light skin, dark skin thing within our community is so, like, we have got to grow up. You know what I mean? Like, the beauty of Black is the fact that we come in all different shades and varieties. and there shouldn't be a one is better than the other. And granted, I think that comes from, of course, the slavery and things like that, but we're 400 years now, guys. So we have to get to a point where it's like, let's start to address the fact that beauty is beauty. So it shouldn't matter what your color is. It shouldn't matter the shade of black that you are, if you're all black or not. It really shouldn't matter. Beauty is beauty. And you shouldn't, try to feel like someone gets more preferential treatment because of their color. 400 years later, at some point, we as a black community have to change that narrative. It's up to us. It's the only way that that's going to change outwardly is if we as a community start to say that all black is beautiful. There is no one better than the other. If you prefer one than the other, that's you're entitled to your preference. You know what I mean? But don't make it seem like one is better just because of the shade of their skin. Like I feel like we should we have bigger fish to fry, clearly. Right. And I just feel like it's just one of those things where we have to grow as a community to overcome this. And how can we be united and fight other races?
Responsibility too, because the first time, like I think I told all of you guys, like the first time I knew I was dark skinned was when I was told by a black man. He's like, "You're pretty for a dark skinned girl," and I was like, "Oh, okay." That was in my 20s, and that was the very first time that I had heard that. So I think there needs to be some sort of responsibility on these black men, that they put us on these levels, and that's where that hate comes from. And I'm not saying that black women shouldn't take responsibility, because we should, but it starts with that core.
And I think if we're bringing the issue to someone, like black women, we can't go and battle each other. You know what I mean? Because it's not to the other person, well, you're dark skin, so blah, blah, blah. Like, it's usually the man that's the one that's kind of diminishing our value because of our skin tone, right? So if we're going to bring the battle to someone, I feel like it has to be to them. And, Brandy, we talked about it several times. Like, I, as a chocolate dark-skinned woman, right, as we talk about the spectrum of beauty, I've been told several times, like, wow, you're so pretty for a chocolate girl. And I'm like, it's a backhanded compliment, right? Why can't you just say, oh, you're pretty?
See, it's never from black women, though. It's always from black men, right?
It has always been from black men. I have never had a black woman come up.
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be some responsibility on their part for that.
Yeah. Have you ever had any race of woman come up and say that?
No, I've had people say you're so pretty. Other races have said you're so pretty, and maybe in the back of their mind they're thinking.
But you don't know though, yeah.
But I don't know that. They never say that. They just say, "Oh my gosh, you're so pretty. You look like such and such." You know what I mean? Like, but they never. But it's my experiences, and it's been multiple since childhood until now. That it's always been a black man, unfortunately, that has referenced, "Oh, you're pretty for."
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way.
What do you think, Dan? You have any comments on it?
You there, Danny?
Are you muted?
Yes. Oh, yeah. You know what? That's what it is. I was talking the whole time.
I hear you, girl. You were muted. Okay.
I'm
like, damn.
What do you have to say?
I was going to say that a lot of this, though, comes from the Willie Lynch mentality. You remember Willie Lynch wrote that essay about how to separate black people within their own race after slavery? And he talked about the skin color as one of the things. And so I think a lot of that, we still deal with that to this day.
Yeah.
And that just skin color is just that. It's just skin color, where you're light skin, dark skin, it doesn't matter. Like, beauty is beauty, and and love is love. People are people. I'm just so over hearing that, and then the fact too, they want to troll you, because of your skin preference, and it's just retarded. Like that is insane, and that's why I remember, because like it's so weird. So I'm a middle child. Like, my older sister is lighter than me. She's like your complexion, Janae. Then my younger sister's brown skin. She's like Brandy's complexion. And so, or maybe it's a mix between Brandy and Nicole. You all met my younger sister before, and so. It's like, it used to infuriate me when people say, oh, like when, let's say someone was trying to fit with somebody, and they would start describing me, and the first thing they would say, oh, she's light skinned with this, and they're like, oh, they're like sold. They don't know what? I could have, you don't know what I look like. Just because I'm light skinned, does that make it beauty? No. And then somebody say they're dark skinned. Like, I remember when I had discussed it, they would start, oh, she has a nice body. She has this. Why do we have to start off like that? She's beautiful. Like, I don't want to hear that. Like, when someone's trying to hook me up with someone, I don't give a crap. What do they look like? What do they believe in? You know, do they go to church? They have a relationship with God? What they do for a living? All that stuff, whether they light skin, dark skin, nah, I don't care.
You know, you bring up an interesting
I don't care.
point, because I remember in middle school, you know, this is like back in the day, right? So the only way you used to talk was on the phone, and you're trying to, like, you know, hook your friend has a boyfriend, and the friend's like, oh, I got my best friend too, you know, like back in the day. And I remember my best friend at the time, she was really light skinned and pretty hair, you know, like, you know, it was just the thing, right? And I remember the guy asked her, like, oh, what's your friend look like? And she was trying to describe me without bringing up my complexion. And so he was sold, right? And then he met me, and he was kind of like, he was disappointed. He was like, oh, you didn't tell me she was dark skinned. And this is middle school. So as a middle school, imagine like your self-esteem, you're already trying to figure yourself out in middle school. You're already awkward, you know? So to hear that, I was like, and the crazy thing was, because of my self-esteem and I was still trying to figure it out, I dated this guy, right? Even besides him saying all that dumb shit. And I remember seeing him years later, and he was like, damn, you know, like, you grew up and all this other stuff. And I'm looking at him like, what the fuck? You damn right I did. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter was, when you completely negated me, didn't even want to talk to me, because as soon as you saw me, you were like, oh, she dark skinned. You know what I mean? Like, what's up with that? Like, I just feel like your skin complexion should not define your beauty in their own way.
Was he dark skinned?
He was brown skinned. So, you know what I mean? Like, he was probably Brandy's complexion.
It's always dark. It's always like that, because light skinned guys don't do that. They actually like the dark skinned women. I don't know if it's that contrast or what it is, but I've noticed light skinned men either like dark skinned women or white women. It's like, that's just what it seems like sometimes.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, that's why I just knew. I was like, I know it's a dark skinned man. That's kind of what pisses me off even more, because it's like, how are you gonna act like that? And this person has the same exact skin tone as you.
Your mom is probably my complexion, sir.
Yeah.
What's going on? But you know what? At the end of the day, though, guys, I think it's just important that we continue to have conversations like this, where we as women uplift each other, right? Because we can't rely on that validation from a man. And I know it's easier said than done, but it has to start somewhere. And we have to start changing the narrative between ourselves. We can't even, you know, have those same types of conversations. How are we going to teach our sons that? Or, you know, other generations, or even change the narratives with the guys we're dating. You know what I mean? Like, we have to be the source of change.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, you know, a lot of those guys from that channel, I mean, they would encourage Black women to go and date other races. I mean, they've actually messaged me and said that, and was like, why don't Black women just date other races too? Why complain and complain about, you know, Black men and be single and not get married?
Yeah. A lot of Black women don't. A lot of Black women want to date a Black man, and that's straight up point blank.
Well, they also need to go overseas. There's Black men overseas. There's some sexy ass Black men in London with an accent. There's some in Africa. Try a Dominican. They're Black and, you know what I mean? Like, y'all gotta try some.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But you know, it sucks though, guys, that we would have to go outside of our race to find someone to feel and love us the way we what's the word I'm looking for? That we deserve to be treated.
But see, I think that it's all in how you look at it, right? I'm a huge advocate on my channel. I'm a huge advocate for interracial dating. My boyfriend is Turkish, obviously, you know. So I'm a huge advocate for interracial dating, loving who you love. And I don't think, because we're all people, right, Danny? That's what you said in the beginning. So if we're all people, it shouldn't matter if we date a white guy or a Spanish guy, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and I think Black women need to just open up and expand their mind a little bit. Like, if you aren't finding the Black man that you're looking for, maybe you do need to go and just open your options a little bit. And I don't think there's
and like I said, you don't have to go straight to white men. You know what I mean? There's so many different. There's so many in between. Like I said, Dominican.
Russian,
Like
there's
there's a lot of like Spanish, like Afro Latinos. You know what I mean? They're sexy too. You know, like there's and dark skinned. And so it's like there's a lot of, you know, we need to go overseas to the Black men overseas. You know, because you go to a Black man overseas, you're foreign. That's what you have to realize. Your value goes up. You are now foreign, because that's what I realized. I set my Hinge to London, right? All these guys are like, I love your accent and blah blah, and I was like, oh, I have an accent. I'm foreign, y'all. Like I done made it. Like I am foreign. You know, all these men, they try to talk shit about us in America. You go anywhere, these Black men will find you as a foreign Black woman, and you will be exotic. So it's like, and you can still be with a Black man. You don't even have to go and be with a white guy. Just get out of America. Like, these mofos want to act like this? Bet. We'll go ahead and go to Brazil. We'll go ahead and go to the Dominican Republic. We'll go ahead and go to Africa. You know how Africa is 3 times the size of the U.S. Africa. And that's a ton of Black people. You can go to Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, get you with Trevor Noah. You know what I mean? Like, y'all, you guys don't even know what is out there. I have been hinging it up around the world, and I'm here to tell you that
familiar with Hinge?
I am on Hinge. My Hinge is in Atlanta.
You download Hinge, you have to take your location off. Okay, so you turn off your location.
Okay.
Download Hinge, and then you manually set your location to where you're at. Right.
So, but here's my question with that though. Because, like, how do we? Because again, I'm on Hinge, but I'm local, right? But how? Because then you want to be realistic, right? Because I want to be married, I want to have kids, and so that means that I have to have someone that is more than likely here, or maybe if he is somewhere else, willing to travel here. But like, let's take out the like just in general, like just dating other races. Like, how do you guys? Where do you go to meet these guys? Because I feel like my experience is if I've been out, I don't get approached by other races. So it's not that I'm not potentially open to it, but I'm not gonna go up and be like, hey, you know, I'm gonna wait for him to come.
Honestly, dating apps, because people aren't as afraid. It's a little scarier, especially if they're another race, to like kind of approach you. But a dating app is so much easier to approach you.
Know what? In one of my videos that I'm like promoting interracial dating, I do have a lot of white guys in the comments. They're saying, you know, they do tend to be a little bit shy to approach a Black woman.
They are.
Why? Because Black
they're afraid of being rejected. They okay. First,
you know, that's probably all the stereotypes that are out there.
Yeah.
You crazy, wild, strong, demonized Black women.
Oh, I think they like all that, but I think they're afraid of being turned down because they turned down because they know Black women prefer Black men a lot, and men don't want to be rejected. And then there's also the fear of like, shit, can I measure up to Mandingo? You know what I mean? That's kind of scary.
That's
too.
a lie.
You said that's a lie.
That's a lie.
Yeah. Ladies, we gotta
another stereotype.
It is.
That is.
So just to kind of summarize, so you guys think that the reason Black women are single, the highest rated women that are single, unmarried, is because, one, there's a higher percentage of Black women versus Black men, right? That's one reason.
Successful, yeah.
Right. The number 2 reason is that these Black men that we want, they tend to marry white or light-skinned women, right?
I wouldn't even say light-skinned. I think they just marry other.
They marry other. Okay. So that's 2 reasons why, right? We can call it spade a spade. All right. Yeah. Perfect. So the next topic and the last topic that I want to go over, I want to tap into this ratio about Black women having the highest percentage of abortion. So what do you guys think about that? Why do you and I don't know the stats for that, but one of the guys brought that up, and I was just like, man, really? Like, I had no idea. Why do you guys think that is?
It depends on who they're pregnant by. And if they're pregnant by Black men, unfortunately, if you look at the numbers, black men having kids with black women out of wedlock is what, 70-something%. But then black men being the fathers of kids of biracials is 90-something%. So yeah, so it sounds like more and more the problem is not black women. Just saying, because even with other races of women, it's not working. But okay. Anyway, but I think,
and I'm an example of that, and I'm a whole example of that because my parents divorced. My dad cheated on my mom with a black woman, and then he married the woman that he cheated on my mom with. And they still together. They got 3 kids. She's a black woman.
Wow.
So, that happens.
Wow. I kind of want to take a different spin on it. I'm wondering if it's resources. Like, if you have a child and you're not ready, and and granted, this is kind of contradictory, just after I said, like, there's a lot of successful black women, but so there's 2 parts. There's a successful black woman that's focused on her career, and a baby could completely alter the course of that. And then there's also black women that just don't have the resources by themselves to care for a child, and systematically, you don't have, it's not like they tell you, like, oh, you need to keep this baby, but are you going to help me pay for this baby? Are you going to watch this baby while I go try and provide for this baby? And if you're a single mother, I feel like that's 10 times more difficult versus if you're a partner. So I think the correlation of marriage and abortions probably has some sort of, connection, maybe very loosely tied. But if you have a lot of unmarried women that don't want to have children by themselves out of wedlock,
then you're
because of resources, I think that could be a piece of it.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, and I also think that another thing is too, when you look at, because I think it's black women number 1 with abortions, and the second is Hispanic women with abortions. I think a lot of, again too, is, like you said, economic means, sometimes timing, sometimes access to condoms or contraceptives. Sometimes drugs play a factor. There are so many things that play a factor with unintended pregnancies that, and then, like you said, a lot of times too, if the father is not going to be there, because we all know there are sometimes relationships where people just have sexual relationships and nothing more. And sometimes in those relationships, unintended pregnancies come about. And a lot of times men will say, hey, if you keep that baby, you can keep it if you want, but I'm not going to be here. And they will straight up say that. And even if the state mandates child support is not the same as having someone physically there to help with that burden. Because we can all be honest, raising a child is not easy. I know single mothers, and I know people who are married, and it's a lot for both. So, no one really probably wants to intentionally go down that road, especially if you don't have the financial means to go down that road.
So what I'm hearing is 2 reasons why it's so high. Systematically, right? We don't have access to, black women don't have access to the appropriate tools, right? And then number 2, a lot of the black men can't hold up their responsibility. So the black woman is not going to want, actually 3 reasons. Okay, that's number 2. The black woman is not going to take on that responsibility by herself. Number 3 is you might have a professional black woman who, wants to focus on her career and not have that baby. So, yeah.
I have a question. The stats about abortion, where do those stats come from?
So what they normally do is take, like, abortion clinics. They have a report. Normally you go in for an abortion, just like we go to the doctor anytime, you report your race and your age. And so they usually take those and submit those to, like, the health department, health board.
So get this.
Census. They want to.
So I was told that I was heard. I want to say I heard and I was told at the same time. So I heard. My brain just be working too fast. Okay. I heard that, white people have more like insurance, like health insurance. And I heard that health insurance can cover abortion. So they say Black and Latino people go to like Planned Parenthood where it's documented, and white people will have like private doctors where it's not. That's what I heard.
And I would copy that also and say that, and this is again like conspiracy type thing, but recently a lot of states were trying to enact where they were banning abortions. And I know you guys probably heard that. So I think it was earlier this year or late last year. And one of the theories behind what was driving this initiative was that there was actually a high rate of white people having abortions, and because of the discrepancy in the population kind of being more ethnic, like there's more minorities than there are whites in America, they were trying to, you know, kind of change that shift. And it was because a lot of white people were having abortions, not blacks. So, and again, that's, you know, just anecdotal data, so I have nothing to back it up with, but that was some of the stories and conversations that I heard in regards to abortions. So I was a little kind of surprised at that stat. But to Janae's point, that maybe that's why, because they're not being documented.
Being documented. They're not being documented. I mean, look how many black women in the, I mean, I would say in the hood, like have like 4 or 5 kids. You know what I mean? Because they don't believe in abortion.
Yeah.
You know?
Or
so are they really doing it for a check? Are they really having babies for a check? Because that's
Some do. It's so sad.
I feel like it's not worth it. I feel like there is no check. Like kids are expensive. What check are they getting?
Yeah.
Are they having are women in the ghetto having kids with, like, I don't know, football players and athletes? Because what check are they getting? I just want to know.
I mean,
the government
does have programs. So
yeah, they have government assistance.
Yeah, if you think about Section 8, these Section 8 homes don't always look like they're in the hood. I mean, there's Section 8 homes in nice communities. Yeah. And you have to have a certain amount of kids, or, you know, a certain balance of things to apply for those. So, I mean, if
so they purposely having kids for Section 8. I mean, is this, have you heard of anybody doing that?
Unfortunately, yeah.
I have. Yeah.
Even think about it now with the stimulus, right? I think it was $500 per child.
Yeah.
So if you got 4 kids, that's $1,000.
I mean, hell, you have some people getting married just to get like that tax.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think
it's military.
Is it a lot? I don't think it's a lot.
Girl, the military. You know how many people I know that got married because of the military benefits? Really? I know about that.
Really?
Like, bringing kids into it's just too much.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, all right, ladies. Well, that's all I had for you guys today for the girl chat. I'm so glad that y'all decided to join in on this.
Is that it? I was like, see, that was so much calmer than the shit I was on. Like,
yes.
Because we didn't have guys pushing our buttons. That's why.
Wow. Nobody was an angry black woman. Nobody was. Look at this.
Look at this, guys.
Look what happens when, you know, everybody just gives each other respect. Like, look, see, that's all. That's all.
It's very possible for us to all not be aggressive and give our opinions.
Well, I just want to that y'all are some beautiful brown skinned girls. Y'all really are.
For real.
I mean, and it's okay. I mean, that's their job trying to poke at you. Just don't let them get to you. They trolling. So now you know they trolling. So now you know how to handle it.
Danny, we're gonna
that's all.
MT asked us if we wanted to do another one, so we're gonna have to get you in on it.
Hey, I'm there.
If we wanted to do another,
I'll be down for it.
All right.
You already said I got a headache. I'm like,
I don't know.
I'm like, try and troll me if you want to. You're gonna see something. I'm going to cuss you out in the calmest, eloquent way that you're not even realizing. You have to analyze it. Like, damn, did she just? Yes, I did. So.
Look.
Love it.
All I'm gonna say, look, to Jesus be the glory for the person who tries to troll me.
Right.
Ladies, have a good night. We're gonna call it a night. I love you guys so much.
Love you too. Y'all be blessed.
Hi guys. Don't forget to click that subscribe button. It lets me know you're enjoying the content I'm creating for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.